I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:31 of the Willits City Council on this March 27th. If you will please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Larry. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Connie? Here. Strong? Stransky?
Yes.
Gonzalez? Mayor Rodriguez?
Present. All right, the next order of business is public communication. The City Council welcomes input from the audience. If there is a matter of business on the agenda that you're interested in, you may address the council when this matter is considered. If you wish to speak on a matter that is not on the agenda, you may do so at this time. In order for everyone to be heard, your comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. And then members of the public are asked to observe the rules of decorum, which are listed on the agenda summary under item 2. Do we have any members of the public that would like to address us? If you would step to the podium and thank you.
My name is Virginia Stransky, and on behalf of myself, my family, the neighbors, cats, and dogs, I want to publicly tell Walter and Public Works how we appreciate 2 new stop signs. It was done so quick and so neat, and everybody, when I drive by, I get a little thumbs up. So thumbs up where it goes to the right people. But thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Virginia. Go ahead and step up. And then if you wouldn't mind mentioning your name for the record, that would be appreciated.
Hello, Josh Gravier. I'm the tribal administrator for the Sherwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians. I was here previously where the city approved a MOU with the tribe on the possibility of extending a water connection out to our east side development. What we've learned currently is that we've attempted to go after some funding sources. What we're learning is that they want kind of a little bit more of a firm commitment that like, yes, this is how we're getting our water there, because they're not wanting to award and then say, well, we hope that we address this kind of down the road. So we're just kind of want to give you guys an update also where we're at in that process. We are having a hydro study that's going to be performed next month that should give us some great data whether or not maybe we're the ones who are providing that water, or but still wanting to also maybe still work with the city as well. So that's kind of where we're at now. And so maybe we can continue to meet, possibly whether it's maybe ad hoc or maybe it's meeting with Brian or
the Water Wastewater Committee later in April.
Okay.
We'll get you on the agenda. And
Right.
we'll invite you and we'll discuss it then.
yeah, and we can just kind of continue those discussions and know where we're at. And I know that we had, when I had spoke with Brian and Scott, also on numbers, kind of identifying how many units we may be looking at putting out there and what that additional water need could be, and whether or not the Willits system could actually could handle that additional load, or so I don't know if you guys have had that, if the city has had that opportunity to kind of go through those numbers as well, and maybe those are parts of the discussion that we have possibly then.
Because we can't comment on non-agendized
Right.
But it sounds
We're
like
just kind of wanting to put it, kind of, we're still here and we're still trying to identify what the water is, so that source is. So I don't know if we have.
Thank you, Josh.
Mariah, who has additional. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm Mariah McGill. I serve as the grants analyst at Northern Circle Indian Housing Authority. We're a tribally designated housing entity that works on behalf of 9 federally recognized tribes in Northern California. So we carry out all of the housing and community development activities. So I just wanted to be here to support the Sherwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians, their tribal administrator and their leadership, and really just introduce ourselves as the housing developer. We were established in 1979. And we've been doing business here in Mendocino County for a very long time, including the development over by the casino where we manage the units there as well. So really excited to start having these conversations. And, as experienced developers in Indian country, we're really excited to have this much needed development occur. I started at Northern Circle in 2014, and I've been working on this project since 2015. So, originally it was a 50-unit subdivision with water, wastewater on site, and a recreation facility. Since that time, we've had to conduct a hydrogeologic study, and with the support of the tribe, there's going to be another study to see where the water capacity is and how potentially we can strengthen this partnership with the city of Willits and build much-needed housing. Because I think at the end of the day, we all want affordable, sustainable, healthy communities. And that's what we're here to do. So really looking forward to a continued partnership and building some much needed homes for more than 200 tribal members who are experiencing homelessness and at risk of homelessness. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mariah.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Rodriguez. My name is Buffy Wright-Barasa. I am the Sherwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians Tribal Secretary, and I just wanted to come and introduce myself so that we can start having this relationship, develop it. I think it's probably the first time that we as leaders have, stepped up to the plate and, said, hey, we want to work with the city of Willits, and we, look forward to our partnerships and what other, things that can come up. There's a lot of things that we can do together. This water line is just one of the things that we're thinking about. Further on down the road, there's lots of things because we buff up against each other with our properties. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to work together. So it's nice to meet you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Buffy. All right. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address us on an item that's not on the agenda? All right. Hearing none, I'll close public communication and move on to public matters. Before me, we have a proclamation. Do we have dispatch? Yeah, come on up. So, I'm going to read the proclamation of the Willits City Council proclaiming April 7th through April 13th as National Telecommunicators Dispatch Appreciation Week. Whereas, when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Willits Police Department's Emergency Communication Center, E911, and Willits public safety dispatchers also play a vital role during nights and weekends by notifying city staff of water, sewer, and street emergencies. And whereas public safety dispatchers of the Willits Police Department have contributed substantially to calming callers in distress, helping countless of people in difficult situations, and assisting with the apprehension of criminals. And whereas each City of Willits police dispatcher, Brittany Ponakvar Dolney, Mike Stainbrook, Anthony Castillo, Deborah Tonelli, and Lori Kaiser have all exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in this last year. Now, therefore, I, Sabrina Rodriguez, Mayor of the City of Willits, along with Vice Mayor Gonzalez, Council Members Madge Strong, Larry Stransky, and Greta Connie do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th through April 13th as the National Telecommunicators Dispatch Appreciation Week. Yes. Anthony, you want to come up?
Come on up, Anthony.
Present this to you.
You can take the pictures from up here too. Better angle.
I know Brittany's gonna want it, so.
Yes.
I told him I'd walk up with him, but I tricked him. There. All right,
Thank you, Anthony.
And I know that was an official statement with a little bit of heart in there, but I'm sure that each of us up here have personal stories of how calling dispatch and getting that calming voice on the other end. And there's just been many moments where it's made a difference in our lives and others. And Anthony, I've seen you at work over there and many of the others that we've mentioned. And you really deeply are appreciated. I just want you to know that, and the rest of the group. Yeah.
Mayor and members of the council, my name is Chris Dewey. I'm the interim chief for the department. And I just want to express our appreciation for all the members of the department. Dispatchers are near and dear to my heart, and I think everybody's heart. They really are the glue that keeps us all safe, community members and officers alike. And I very much appreciate your proclamation and your support, and I know our staff does as well. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, and welcome. And it was wonderful seeing the officers out here showing appreciation for dispatch as well. So I know it's a family over there. Thank you for being here. Anybody in the public have a comment on that item? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the Little Lake Fire District monthly update. There's a written report. Do we have anybody here from fire? Not this evening, okay. You can refer to the written report that's in the packet. We have no ordinances to enact before us this evening. So we'll move on to the consent calendar. We have 3 items before us. We have the special meeting of February 14th, March 13th, and then a regular meeting on March 13th. Thank you, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have would anybody like to make a motion to approve the?
I would so make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any comment from the public? All right, hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Councilmember Connie,
Yes.
Stransky,
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mayor, if I may, we only have 3 council members tonight, and just so everyone is clear, a motion can pass with a majority of the members present, so a 2 vote out of 3 passes.
Okay, it's rare for us to have 3.
Yes.
We almost always have all 5 members here, so this is unusual for us. All right, the motion carried on that 3-0. And so we'll move on to monthly activity reports. And so business license activity report for February 2024 is in your packet. And we have no commission, agency, and authorities business before us this evening. So I'll move right along to the city manager reports and recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. First item tonight is a performance review of the city council's goals that you adopted back in 2021. On an annual basis, we have brought these items back before you, and each time, at least the last consecutive years, there's been a different format. We're still trying to work this through. I worked with Ronnie Shine, our contract planner. We looked at a couple other cities and see how they present their goals annually to the council, to their respective councils, and we felt this is probably one of the best approaches that we've seen. So before you tonight, there are two separate documents. One that, they're basically reverse of each other, a reverse image. One is, contains the goals and the policy statements that the council adopted back in '21. And then there's a list of all your actions sitting as a council for the year 2023, and they're cross-referenced from a goal to an action, action to a goal. If you notice that on the agenda summaries, we have included back in '23 a citation to the individual goal that that action satisfies, complies with, meets, gets in the ballpark somewhat. Some of them are a little bit stretched, but we are confident that it meets it demonstrates to the council that staff recognizes and knows the importance of these goals to the council and wants to meet them to the best of our ability. So this is basically a performance tracking device. We'll probably like to bring them forward. In the council's operating manual, it does state that the goals should be reviewed quarterly. One of the things we did, like I said last year, was include into the agenda summary, so there's more of a universal tracking system there. So, one of the things I do want to point out that there was a lot of items discussed and presented to the council, and ultimately you adopted or approved. So we are using the operation plan as a basis for bringing items forward, looking at items that the council wants to achieve, and this is a measure to perform, show the performance of staff, and you can look at the hard work they put in over the past year to accomplish as many items that were identified.
I know I appreciate having the goals and then going back and evaluating whether we're meeting the goals. That was something that we also asked for, and I also appreciate that every time it's on the agenda, in the agenda summary, it does tie it back to the goals. That really has helped this last year to 3 years to help keep us on track, because it's easy to get pulled in many different directions. Councilmember Stransky?
I was wondering, when I looked over all of these items, that item 45 and 52 are the same. Do you have the reason for that you're having the same?
Which sheet are you looking at? Which sheet are you looking at?
I'm looking at this one here.
Okay. Let me just pull it up. 2A, 8A. There are some items that basically went to the council, was either a continuance or the council asked to bring back at a later date. So it was presented at one council meeting, and then the subsequent action by the council was at a later meeting.
Okay.
So there is some duplication.
Thank you. And then again, at 62, same item. I just wondered why it's in here 3 times. So it's the same item that just didn't happen at the
Correct.
time? Okay.
It
Thank
was
you.
an item that was first presented to the council, and chances are it was tabled at the original hearing date, and it was brought back for subsequent action with guidance or instructions by the council for modification or review.
Thank you.
And then the third item is basically the master sheet of the goals and the policies with kind of a really simplified status. And there's a little notation there, started, not started, delayed. Right now, like I said, these goals stem from the second quarter of 21, April of 21. Staff's perspective right now is to use these existing goals. They're pretty elaborate, as has been mentioned before, to use these for the rest of the year, and starting in 25, have a sessions or multiple sessions with the council to adopt new set or do a comprehensive review of what we have now. Potentially there may be different council members, so that gives the new members an opportunity to look at what has been accomplished and, you know, have their opportunity they have the opportunity to weigh in on goal setting for the organization.
Okay.
Could we potentially put that on, say, the second meeting in January?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, item 2024 work plan is what I'm looking at next. And item 1.2 is retaining a tax attorney. I don't remember talking about that, but maybe I was gone or something at that particular time.
Which sheet are you looking at?
It's-
The work plan?
It's 1.2,
Yes.
it's the first item on that.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yes. You know, this is one of those situations where the recommendation is a moment, it represents its time in space and moment. Basically, at that time, we didn't have a finance department, we didn't have a finance director, we were a little concerned what was gonna happen with Measure K, we didn't know where our budgets were. So there was guidance and instructions from the council to look at, do we need to bring in outside consultation regarding our fiscal health, resiliency, and that was a reference there.
Okay, and that would be the same for 1.3, which is a finance manager.
I look out in the audience, I see one.
I see one, but I just wondered why it's on there when we have one.
There is no attempt to modify. These were the goals that were adopted in '21. The hiring of Manny occurred in the end of '21 into '22. So all these goals are as approved back in April of '21.
Okay,
So there are some goals that were, you can cross off the list, they were accomplished, but they're still on the master form. There was no attempt to remove them.
I'm sorry to be the only one talking.
No,
Well,
feel
go ahead.
free to answer, get your questions.
Okay, on community development, it says recruit a city planner and a grant manager.
Correct? And at that time, we basically accomplished 50% of that goal. We hired a city planner. We had difficulties in recruiting a grants manager. Some of those responsibilities of grant management and grant attainment has been filtered out throughout the organization. It's not nested into one position right now, and we're making it work. So if you recall, community development now has additional staff members. We have a city planner and then a senior planner, and we have contract assistants to help us go through some of the workload and also look at some of the additional planning opportunities that we're bringing before the council.
Okay, so this isn't another city planner and another grant manager. This is possibly the people that we have recruited
Yes.
amongst this time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and my last.
Take your time, Larry, we're in no hurry.
Explore the opportunity of requesting the Justice Center for Mendocino County. We've talked about this, I don't know how many years,
Yes.
and it's never worked out. So
Correct.
this is an attempt to get it to work out.
I've been working on this since that goal was adopted. It's been difficult to coordinate with the county. One moment they are in agreement that they want to move forward with discussions, and other times they back away. Actually, we're looking at a couple of other options with the Justice Center. I just had a recent discussion with the county CEO about 3 weeks ago on this topic. They were going to present some information, but still, has not been delivered.
Thank you.
It's still actively pursued behind the scenes.
Okay. That does it for this one.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Connie?
I don't have any comments.
All right. Anybody from the public want to address us on this item? Any questions, comments? Okay.
Okay?
Do you need any direction from us?
At this point, it was for informational purposes. Basically, look back at '23, what we chart our progress, our performance. If there's anything that is concerning that we, as an organization, need to put focus on, let us know, let myself know. You can ask to have this brought back to the council to look at specific goals that you want additional attention to, or ones that, to be fully satisfied.
For me, I think those goals are still relevant, although I think that when we get to January of 2025, there may be some other goals that, maybe are pushed up a little bit higher priority, since we will have accomplish the majority of some of them. And I also want to show appreciation for the staff that's been working really hard to stay true to the goals that we set forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I make one comment? I think one of the things that I continue to find frustrating about our goal-setting process is these were very ambitious goals. You've acknowledged that. There's a lot of detail in them. As we all know, we can't do everything at once. As much as we would like to do all of these things, we can't do all of them at once. So we see all of these, many of these with a status of started, not completed, in process. And that will always be the case because like any organization, we're trying to get done as much as we can with limited resources. One of the things that I hear from the public regularly, though, is, well, those aren't my priorities. When you're doing those things, then you're not doing these other things. And so I sometimes, when I look at this document, I think we haven't really given any clear indication of what our priorities, even within this set of goals, are. So we're not saying our top 3 are these 3. We just have this whole bucket list of stuff that we always want to get done. And so I guess my question is, how do we as a council indicate to staff as well as to the public what our real priorities in this list is? I mean, yes, these are all important. They all need to get done eventually. But if we're working on all of them all the time, it's much harder to check things off completely.
The greatest tool that the council has is budgeting. So you look at the list, and we're going to be updating the CIP, and there's several items here that are cross-referenced with the CIP. As we go through budget workshops and we produce budget drafts for the council consideration, keep this document, have this document in front of you and say, okay, that budget allocation is going to satisfy that, or it's going to put resources to explore this option. This is, once again, it's aspirational, it's looking at the big picture. Then what you need to do is use this to influence your decision-making relating to budget allocations, CIP ranking, where you want to put capital projects, emphasis. So that's what I would say to you in return. Now, we can think about as we move forward with budgeting and CIP workshops, we can have a public forum with the council for the benefit of the public and say, okay, here's our adopted goals. This has been a work plan. We have met some of them. Partially we met, some have not, some just did not get off the ground yet, just because of any number of reasons. So the question here is, does council want to reach out to the public and say, help us rank these, put a priority list together, or just rely on the budgeting process and look at projects that are presented that we know we need to accomplish in the next 3, 5, 7-year time frame?
I like that answer. However, in the 5 years that I've been on council, I rarely feel as if there's much wiggle room in the budget for us to prioritize. It's sort of like our money is typically spent by the time we get there on what our actual day-to-day needs are. So I don't find that to be totally accurate in how to set our priorities.
Granted, I think as we move forward with budgeting, with Measure K, there is some latitude. It's not much, because we know what we can cover with Measure K and its allocations. The council last year had raised utility rates, so there is some flexibility to look at long-range capital improvement projects for the utility side of things. I think what you just addressed when your first statement was, this is a large collection. And that was some of my concerns. These are great goals, but they're not ones you can easily check a box and say we accomplished that with any, funding or staffing allocations. I think as we move forward, and if we look at these back in January 2025, I think what we need to do is maybe condense some of these to goals that we can really focus on with the resources that we have, and the skills and the talent that we also possess within the organization. Maybe what we need to do is, as the next goal setting, is just kind of refine them a little bit more and bring them more in line with where we are with resources, specifically staffing capability or capacity and funding.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is, is that as we prepare budgets, or the budget for at least 24-25, we're going to do the one annual, 1 year, just to get caught up with the audits and transitioning to the new Springbrook accounting software. I can meet individually, or we can have a work session prior, and we can look at some of these goals, and where would you want to put if we had additional resources? Or what is your emphasis on some of these items, and as they are addressing needs, either through the capital improvement plan, or items that each of the council member wants to bring forward as a meaningful consideration?
Although I appreciate Greta's perspective, I feel a little different on this issue. I feel like as a professional organization, we should have a very comprehensive plan, whether it's an entity or your private business. You can't just pick 3 things and focus on and then let the other things go by the wayside. You've got to focus on every aspect of running that entity or every aspect of that business in order for it to be successful. Yes, you may put a little bit more priority on certain things, but I think that we have to think broader to make sure that we're moving forward in a very comprehensive way. And I think that one of the obstacles that I think that we can solve is we do know that we have Measure K, and we do know that we have some ARPA funds that are available. And then for me, I feel like it's really up to this council. If these are still our goals and these are important, or if there's specific ones that are like the community really wants to see this happen, then we have to be brave enough to say, okay, let's allocate the funds for those items. And that's where I feel like I agree that the budget really drives what our priorities are. I'm eager and hopeful and waiting to see how things pan out, because of the Brown Act, we can't communicate with each other about what we want ARPA funds to be spent on, but how those funds are spent could have a significant impact on which priorities get some push in this next year. So.
And just one other additional observation to layer into this discussion. When these were adopted back in April, that was my 3rd month here, maybe my 4th month. So I have a better understanding of our capacity. What is the need that the council has expressed to either at public meetings or individual sessions or meeting with staff at committee meetings. So that's going to help too. So at that time, I was, okay, let's put everything on the table, let's restructure it and repackage it. Now I have a better understanding of what we can accomplish, what our funding strengths are, how resilient are we with allocating funds for unique projects, and also what is your concerns, and what also more importantly, what is this community needs.
So maybe after we've come collectively together to talk about what things we want to spend money on in terms of Measure K and ARPA funding, we'll have a better idea of really what is of value to us. And then when we go to look at our goals, we'll be able to say, okay, we didn't allocate money to that, so this must not be as a high priority as we initially thought it was, or, you know.
True.
Yeah. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts are, when we started over through the Commercial Street project that we've just recently started, I brought up some things that have been lingering in this community, and I know 2 projects that's been on the agenda for 10 years, and one of them, which is the Van Hotel, I have no idea because it was going before I got on 12 years ago. And so consequently, these are things that why I brought them up again, was that we as a council have, more people have got on that don't remember that that's what they did, because they're gone. And unless staff brings up these things, we just, it just doesn't categorize with us, because we have forgot about it. And you're talking about an 80-year-old that's trying to remember back 15 years of what happened when I first got on the council. And I can't pull that up each time. And I want you to know that that's one of the problems that I see with categorizing these things, is that when all 5 of us are gone, they're going to say, what deal with the commercial property? I mean, because it's not relevant to them at that particular time.
So do you think then that if we didn't have a commercial corridor plan, that...
I'm using that as an example. I have no idea.
Okay, well, we can use something else as an example, but do you think that if we wouldn't have focused on potholes, I'll just use potholes. If we wouldn't have focused on potholes, do you think, that being an example, that we could have expended more energy on the band hotel? Are you feeling like that process could have moved faster?
No?
Because I'm trying to understand.
The example. We have gone through, and not saying anything about Brian, but Brian is a newcomer to 4 or 5 different city managers that have skirted these things because they didn't want to spend the money.
But we
And-
control the money.
Okay, I won't get into that because that's going down the road the wrong way. Never mind, just go on about our business, because this is not gonna work, because we've had city managers tell me when I have brought this up that they're not spending the money on it.
I really am trying, I'm not trying to argue with you, Larry. I'm trying to understand your perspective.
Okay, my perspective is that if you have something that has lingered for, let's say, 5 years, and we've been on the council long enough to know something that was top billing 5 years ago, and you have to have a city manager that once we do these things, carries through with it in order to get it done. Because we, as individuals and people that live in the community and have families and all these other things, forget these things. And when I brought up the thing about the city parking lot on Wood Street between Wood and Mendocino, they said that they weren't going to do it at that particular time because they didn't have the money to do it. And so consequently, what happened is that it just got sidetracked. And so until I brought it up again, which was this year, nobody had even reconsidered it. I mean, it hadn't come up with the city or anything else. And Greta knew about it, and I know about it because people that work downtown have to go to that dark parking lot to get in their cars in the wintertime, and it's cold and dark and you don't know who's in there. And the city should have done this years ago, and we didn't do it because it wasn't a priority with the people that were there at that particular time, or our city manager that wasn't there. And this probably goes back to when Virginia was on the council. I mean, was that when?
That parking lot wasn't there
Okay.
per se.
I'm just saying that these are things that, to answer a question, what Greta was saying, that this is the reason that things go by, is because that, and I said it, so I'm just going to let it go at that. I'm not going to go any farther. Thank you.
I do know that I brought up the Wood Street parking lot. I know Greta's brought it up in meetings, and she's referred to having had conversations with city managers. But I do know that we had a lot of deferred maintenance that wasn't happening, and that when we passed Measure K, one of the things that was supposed to address was deferred maintenance, and Wood Street was something that was on our minds. But we haven't spent the Measure K money because we're waiting for the audits to come in. And I anticipate that if we are fixing the lighting in the Wood Street parking lot, it is the intent that that funding source will come from Measure K. So knowing that, I'm thinking, what would if prior councils didn't have the funding to fix it, it made things a bit difficult to get the job done. That's my own.
Okay. Thank you very much. And not picking on you, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't
that
feel picked on.
These are things that the city has been lax on and hasn't done. And so when we go back to the people in the community and say, gee, what do you want to do? They're thinking back, well, 10 years ago, this was a hot item, and it was very interesting for me, and a good thing for me, and it just died.
But if I might say, when you say the city hasn't done, you're talking about me and you.
No.
Because we're the ones that are in charge. It's our responsibility.
I understand that, and I brought that up, and that's the reason that I'm bringing it up again, is because in my estimation, you've got to go back. You either say that the Wood Street parking lot isn't what our priority anymore. Okay? Let's just take that for just what it is. So let's go on to something else. Maybe abandoned buildings downtown is a priority that we want to do now. I'm saying that as a council, it's no follow-through with what things that the councils before us have done because they're never repeated to us. And I've been on the council for 12 years.
So we could address that, and we could have addressed that if there was a lapse. So in 2021, when we did our goals and work plan, you having all the history and knowledge, that would be the time, and we'll have another opportunity again in January, right?
Yep.
So in January, I'm going to look to you, Stransky, and I'm going to say, what don't I know that I should know that should be in this plan?
Okay.
Fair enough?
That's great.
All right.
I'm just saying thank you, and thank you for audience for putting up with my stuff. Thank you.
Conversation's good, right?
Yeah.
That's how we learn from one another. Okay, and I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Any more questions on?
Oh, did I open it up to the public? I don't believe I did. Or are you finished, or is it okay?
I'm here to
Okay.
answer any questions.
So if you want to step up to the
I think
podium.
there was a question from the public.
Yeah, it would be on the item that we were just addressing.
I didn't have a question, but as a grant writer, just kind of giving some suggestions, thinking about what you said, individually, with having that experience over the long period of time and having those goals established and really trying to figure out ways to prioritize those goals. I think it would be really important to not only include, public comment, but also having those goals identified, putting that target where maybe it's 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, but then having a column that identifies potential funding sources, right? Like if we're going to address a community park, right? Like how do you incorporate those things? Because then each one of your comments are being achieved with those strategic planning, long-term visuals.
Agreed.
That makes sense, and I think we have a component of that, but when we set these goals, we didn't have a funding source for everything. But
They have a funding source for that.
yes.
They have a funding source for strategic planning.
All right. Anybody else from the public? Okay, if you want to go ahead and go to your verbal reports.
Thank you. So one of the items I want to take the opportunity here is to brief the council and members of the public some of the latest comments or developments associated with the county museum and its potential transition to a community-based nonprofit foundation. This has been on the table, or at least been made known by county officials for at least going back to September, October of last year. It's taken several twists and turns, working with the county staff, board of supervisors, county administration. Right now, it's still not set. There's not a blueprint. There's a couple of options out there for the transition to occur, the timeline, the milepost that transition is going to have to pass through as it moves forward. I just want the council to be fully aware of what is on the table, and I want the council also to be aware that there is importance to be diligent in what the county is going to provide, offer, or not offer to this community. And I don't want the council to be left holding a level of responsibility that you don't have that obligation, but the county may place it on you. And I'm not asking for an action item. I'm not asking, you can provide some guidance or direction at this point, but there is an ad hoc committee. I'm not even sure, I think it's an ad hoc committee of the county, and they're moving forward with several items, and they're reaching out to us for support, financial. We knew that was on the horizon, but now they're starting to make a little bit more stronger comments to that extent. I think that needs to be explained to the council. You need to be aware and prepare a plan for a plan how the Board of Supervisors want to handle this transition.
I would like to see an analysis of our contribution because I have a concern that the county feels as if maybe we're not contributing to our museum, and yet the museum sits on the city land, and there's a value to that.
Correct.
If other cities, for example, are making a contribution to museums in their community, and they're making monetary contributions, it might be said that the city of Willits isn't we're not writing a check per se for the museum, but there is a value to the property that the museum sits on. And I think that it's important to include that in the equation of our contribution, as well as we provide the utilities, do we not?
No.
No.
We're not currently.
No.
We were having discussions about potentially doing.
And just on a
Okay.
wider note, just to break that out, not only is it on city property, but it's in an ideal location. The Roots is on city property through a grant program that the county initiated. It's in the ideal setting. It's adjacent to the city park, skunk train facility, the depot, and the ball fields. So it's not like it's an out of sight, out of mind location. It's in a prominent location. It was identified through the East Commercial Street Corridor Plan, the importance of that. And the contents of that plan was shared with the Board of Supervisors, and they were like, wow, we didn't know that the council was that committed to revitalizing and adding resources and value to that whole corridor that potentially would rise the interest and the visibility of the museum and the library together. And they were appreciative of that effort, that you took that initiative and you saw the importance of that community planning project. But it doesn't negate I just don't want this council and the community to be outmaneuvered as this thing moves forward. We don't know the details, and that's one of the problems. They already have asked for some assistance. I offered this back administratively about 6 months back, and it was put off from consideration. Now they're bringing it forward. I have to delay it because what they're asking for is potentially us to create a full-time position in parks that would be split with the county maintenance out there. I'm not going to do that until budget consideration. I got to run the numbers. I can't do that now. So these are things that the county is looking for. It's not going to help sustain what they're trying to do. There are bigger pieces that they need to address. Having someone out there maintaining the facility is a small piece. There are other items that need consideration. This council just needs to be aware and prepare for what potentially may happen.
Can I add something? I just also, I feel like maybe you don't want to say this, but I will say this. One of the supervisors actually indicated that the city of Willits is now in a much stronger financial position that it's been in the past, and that we should consider using our Measure K funds to pay for the museum. And so I just would like to remind us all to review what the voters approved when they approved Measure K and what that money was intended to be spent on. And I can bet you $1 or more that they never said anything about paying for the county museum. So we need to be mindful of that and recognize that while the county may be viewing those funds as a resource for museum operating costs, I don't think we should be looking at it that way.
Here, here.
You and I both serve on the committee, the Measure K committee, and I absolutely would not support that. That's not what we told the voters we would do with the funding. We were very, very, very clear. Parks, recreation, police department, and deferred maintenance. And I think that we have stayed focused on, as soon as we get our budgets, we're staying true to what we told our voters. And You know, as much as we want to keep the museum in our community, we value it, we'll work hard and try to come up with creative solutions. It is a county museum. And although we're not in Ukiah, the museum's not in Ukiah, I think if we were, I honestly believe that it would be more valuable to maybe the supervisors. Willits doesn't have a lot of county offerings here. They don't have any parks here. You know, that they have an obligation. They have collections there. They have responsibilities, and they need to maintain. I am comfortable with a level of contribution, but I definitely think that if we're going to commit to any kind of contribution, I don't want to be worrying every year that the museum is on the chopping block and every year they just want more and more and more. You know, they need to support it. It's their museum. They're always looking for a way out. And I served on the museum advisory board, and I very publicly made a statement that I was quitting the advisory board because the county didn't listen to us. I felt like I was wasting my time and energy being on the board because at that time they weren't listening. They were just doing what they wanted to do. We weren't advising anyone. We didn't have a quorum and nobody was listening. No, there was no advice to give. So moving forward, I hope that we're very much have a voice. And I agree, I don't want to be left behind. I want to be proactive, and I understand we're going to have to give something.
I fully acknowledge Member Connie to speak out. I tip my hat to you on that comment. I think the transition to this foundation-based model is the right thing to do. There's concerns. It's going to cost money. That's the bottom line. Where's that money going to come from? The county said that they can sustain that for a short time span, not indefinitely. So where's the next, outlook going to be? It's going to be the city. That is what I'm expressing to the council. Be prepared. We need to be aware of what the county wants to do. I know the county staff has been very diligent on how they want to put something forward, but it's not the easiest thing for them to do with all the guidelines and restrictions and the checks and balances that they have to go through potentially for that transition.
I think it's important to remember that although we live in the city of Willits and we pay taxes to city of Willits, we pay taxes to the county as well.
Yes.
And the county, we're deserving of services here in Willits with our county tax dollars. And I think that it's fair to say, hey, we want our museum funded. This is a priority. As I've gone to events over at the museum, which is honestly fairly often, I see people from all over the county that are attending those events. It's not just Willits.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was the
How do
intent
you
of this
feel?
discussion.
I agree 100% with you, but there's one person that, on the board of supervisors, that keeps needling Willits. So I'm not gonna name names, I'm just saying that let him put up or shut up. And I want that listed down on the record.
Well, that county supervisor's term is up at the end of this year. So maybe we'll see a sea of change.
Hopefully.
It is an election year, so
Yes, it is.
we could see some change in perspective and what they value at the county as well. Could get worse, could get better, could stay the same. We'll see.
All right. Any other questions on that topic?
Nope.
All right.
Let me ask the public, does the public have any questions or comments on that item? Okay.
Okay. The next one I'll just run through real brief. On March 16th, Kathy Moorhead and I attended. Thank you for attending.
Hi, thank you. Thank you.
Meeting Mariah tomorrow morning, so.
Okay.
Kathy Moorhead and I met with the Willits Arts Center, Willits Center for the Arts, and we were invited to their board meeting for the month. And what kind of initiated is that their current lease for the building has expired, and they're looking at some options for us. We're going to reach out back to them. They may ask, we're going to ask for them to, if there's any concerns with the building maintenance, staging of the building, anything we can accommodate through that lease. The lease will be revised and brought forward to the council for consideration. They had a couple concerns about energy efficiency, some security, some slight improvements they would like to make. What was in turn communicated back to them was, hey, come back to return to the council at least quarterly, provide updates. Tell the council and the community all the great things you're doing in promoting arts and artistry and artists in this community and in the region for the benefit of that building. So it was a good discussion. I didn't know the lease expired, it was that old. We don't know, we don't see great revisions to it, but I think there'll be some change into it. So, Kathy, is anything?
Part of it is they have a whole new board. From when we signed it 10 years ago, I think there's one left. And so they're basically starting all over and fresh, and they needed to just find out where they stood with us. And we both encouraged them to please come forward, give a quarterly update. You guys would love to hear that. What's going on at the Art Center? What are you promoting now? Because they've started so many new programs.
Yeah.
So
There's so much going on at the Arts
There
Center.
is.
I get their newsletter every other week, and they've got so many activities going on regardless of your age and interest. And they've applied for grants that have allowed them to do lots of even free art activities, ceramics, I mean, just you name it. They've really been stepping it up, and I'm impressed.
Well, it's interesting,
and
just
pleased with
being
what
in
they've
this
got
building
going on.
and seeing on a weekly basis how many school buses are parked out front and the kids are going through for the, Gary Martin does a lot of education throughout the schools, throughout the county, also has the kids coming here. They're promoting artist classes, history, they have the active pottery program in the back space, and then all the gallery space, and then the meeting space upstairs that can accommodate various groups.
It's very active.
So we just encourage them to come before the council, give all the great news, and we'll be working on a revised lease and get that back to you for your consideration.
That sounds good, yeah.
One comment that I have heard from members of the public and a couple of the board members is the lack of the elevator that was
Correct.
taken out. That has had a real impact, especially on musicians who have wanted to participate in music making up in the Great Hall upstairs.
Yes.
It's difficult for them to carry amps and equipment up the stairs and no longer have that freight elevator. So as owners of that property, it might be something long-term to consider an upgrade or some kind of restoration of that.
Yes, that was one of the very important items that they address relating to the facility improvements that would benefit, range of users and increase the use length of, the different groups and type of events that they can have. Either the group themselves or the city or the council can ultimately fund, we can make that happen. It's going to just cost money. So that's a question, we just talked before about goals and objectives and reaching out to the community and see what they need. Here's a prime example. We can accommodate it, but it's going to take money from another general fund activity.
I agree that falls under part of deferred maintenance, and I would like to see it come before the Measure K committee with a dollar amount and some
Okay.
information.
We can do that.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Because right now they had a stair lift on the stairwell, and that's not ADA compliant. And we made that clear to them that that is not going to accommodate ADA accessibility needs. It also creates liability from the transfers from one mobility seat or device to that. And it's not going to carry the device up the steps, and it's not going to accommodate the musicians and the other artists up there. So, yeah, we would love to have that lift in there, but once again, it's just going to cost time and, be time and money that
I
we're
think we
going to
just need to see the dollar
We need to see a
amount.
dollar amount and then figure out how to budget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see if
So-
it's something based on the dollar amount, whether it's something we can
And look at
prioritize.
what funding opportunities might be out there, grants or.
Yes.
Okay. So that's that. Just a third item that just came to light today. Let's see. Connor Stack is our recently hired city planner. Mr. Stack is here. He'll be introduced, well, I'm introducing him now, but he will have an opportunity to introduce himself and speak on the work he's doing for the city, but April 27th, save the date, Community Development is hosting a community engagement program at the City Park, Snyder Park. They are reaching out to the Arts Center and various other stakeholders, Blue Zones. And this is a programmed element into the Clean California grant program that we've been awarded. It's basically going to bring in artists and encourage children, is that correct?
Children, adults, this would be general application given out to the public.
To paint chalk sidewalk panels around the park and in the park itself.
Yeah, and I can speak more on now if you want.
Go ahead. You got it, Mrs. Stack. So, Connor Stack, city planner.
Welcome, Connor.
Thank you. I'm gonna hand this to you. We have some of the posters of the event coming up soon, Clean Canvas. So again, Connor Stack, new city planner. Coming up with the Clean Canvas event on April 27th. It's going to be from 11 to 3, and right now we're searching for a bunch of different organizations to partner with us on it to give sort of its educational perspective. From the Clean California grant, when it was originally proposed, this sort of first event throwing it all off was for litter abatement education and art appreciation. So the art appreciation bit of that is the painting in the park, where artists can sign up, and we're teaming up to get as many as we can. At the end of Earth Day, there's going to be a bunch of different events going on in Willits at the time. So bringing in people to just be coming through and doing art with chalk that we provide in the park. And in addition to that, with the litter education part, we're partnering up with, right now we have booths from Clean California, the Willits Center for the Arts, Cold Creek Compost, Blue Zones from Mendocino for Healthy Communities, and Redwoods Waste Solutions. We're all going to be there with different booths doing different educational pieces that have to do with litter abatement and litter abatement education. So that it's just sort of an educational space as the art's going on, sort of hand in hand. In addition to that, right now, over the next week, we're going to have available applications for both vendors and sponsors for things like swag, t-shirts, water bottles, that sort of thing, to help memorialize the event. Because even though that with the grant, this will be an event that occurs for the next 3 years, we want to make sure we open it up with the community's involvement to it being the first really Willits-led, City of Willits-led big event in quite a while, that it happens not only with the grant's length, but afterwards with the involvement of the community. I think that's all I have for campus, but it's lovely coming up here and meeting you all, Madam Mayor and council members. And I think that's all from me. Thank you. Any questions from you?
Yes. Have you considered reaching out to the county's Department of Transportation to invite them? They've been very helpful with community roadside cleanups. We have to get their permission whenever we do any kind of cleanup on roadsides like Sherwood Road or out in the valley. They also run the Adopt a Road litter removal program.
Okay.
Maybe they could have an informational booth and let members of our public know how they can get involved in roadside cleanup.
Great.
Thank you.
Definitely reach out to them. Thank you.
The guy's name is James. I can't remember his last name right now, but he's awesome.
And we just had a discussion at the Mendocino Transit Authority today, MTA, about something similar that they're doing in Ukiah, and we're taking an electric bus and displaying it there so that people can, they can either just get on board and see how similar it is, ask questions about, clean energy, or we could set something up so that, it could go around the park and people can get a feel for it, but, we can explore that if that's something that you want to add to the event.
Great. The more partners we can get in, just to make it a bigger, more permanent event in Willits, there's no harm in it.
Yeah.
It might also be worth reaching out to the Willits Environmental Club at the high school. They've been active with the
Okay.
events. I've spoken to them at their, I'm trying to think of their, I think Carolyn Bakewell, the teacher, is one of the sponsors of that group.
Great. I've reached out to a few high school groups, but lovely. Thank you.
Good.
Any further questions?
I think Dusty has a question.
I have a question. This isn't quite how we practice in dress rehearsal, but I wanted to share some comments on Connor too, and it was appropriate.
Dusty, I just got an email right before the start to do this, so you're still good. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so after, again, another worldwide search, top of Mount Everest to the depths of the ocean, pushing out the job announcement throughout the states, run into Connor at a local business, and that's how we get the word out. So, we deviated slightly from our strategy of only hiring people in Brook Trails, and we've now hired Connor all the way from right here in Willits. And it was literally a conversation that he had with Taylor that led to his awareness of the job. So now I know to not only post on the telephone poles and Brook Trails, but also put flyers around the local businesses, and that's how we. So once again, I feel like we've lucked out. Connor is is new to the planning profession. Like a number of my favorite planners, they just sort of accidentally stumble into it, and I think Connor could end up being one of those. The man's intelligent. He articulates himself well. He has good energy. And so far has shown a very solid work ethic, and is very anxious to figure out any way that he can be useful to the department and the city. So, Connor's been with us, maybe we're going on 5 weeks, something close to that.
Starting my 5th week now.
Yeah, very good. At first was wrapping his mind around the various planning documents that we have, pulling those off the shelf and familiarizing himself with the council goals, obviously, and is already helping us, process business licenses, taking on some of the relatively basic planning applications for us, helping out with doing research on a number of prospective ordinances we're working on. He is, as you've heard, is playing an integral role in some of the non-infrastructure, the event planning around the Clean California grant, doing an excellent job. He's taken the time and initiative to go and interact with a number of business owners to both promote the event, as well as introduce himself and otherwise, gather input from the public. So very grateful to have Connor here, and I think to the extent that you can fall in love with planning, you have a very bright future, young man.
Thank you. It's been lovely working with the team and time I have. Everybody's grinding, working hard.
Can I ask you just a personal question?
Yeah,
Did you work for the county before you came to work here?
I did not know.
Thank you very much. That's an important one for me.
Sounds like you got a thumbs up there.
Thank you. Yeah, before this, I was doing public health work out in Tennessee.
Public health. All right, welcome.
Thank you.
And on the sixth week of employment, he'll be washing police vehicles and waxing them. There's the, we want him to have the full exposure to the whole organization. On that note, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 9A, adopt a resolution accepting the construction of the Rodeo Grounds bathroom and concession stand repair project, project number 2023-06, and authorizing the filing of the notice of completion. The completed project totaled $277,291.71. The contract amount of $248,848 and $28,443.71 of change orders. Presenting staff member is Davey Bowles, building official.
Thank you, Mayor Rodriguez, council members. I love these introductions because you pretty much sum it up right off the bat. So I just say thank you.
For the public.
This is a long time coming, and I think we're all glad to see this project come to a finale. As you're aware, we did come to council a few weeks ago for ask for additional funding for the final change order amount, which council graciously approved. This is also a great milestone for us because we need to file all our insurance claims, and we haven't been able to do that completely because they keep waiting for our final bills. And this is once we file notice of completion, this allows us to get on the track to release the retention liability that we've been holding on to from DMR, and that'll pay them off, and we can file with remit and SIRA and get that into the insurance hands and hopefully get reimbursed for as much as we can for this project. This project did meet council goals, maintain and improve our public facilities. We obviously had to maintain it since we got crushed by a tree, but we also did improve it. The bathroom, new epoxy floors, the new stall partitions, the new fixtures, new stainless steel sinks. It is a much better product than we had before. And so I think hopefully our community will be proud of it when they do get a chance to use it here shortly. We did relinquish the margarita concession stand over to Rodeo grounds. They've already moved their freezers back in. They have that for the bathroom. We were doing some touch-up paint on our own, things that weren't damaged by the storm and were not in the contract with DMR. We might have finished that up this week. So we're pretty much completely done with that project. So staff recommends that council adopt the accompanying resolution accepting instruction of the Rodeo grounds bathroom and concession stand repair, and authorize city manager to sign and file the notice of completion.
Thank you. Any comments or?
Yes, I have some comments.
Go ahead.
I made the choice of going down there and looking at the whole thing, and I was really surprised. If it's ready for improvement, I mean to be funded by us, we need to go back there and look at it really close, okay? And the reason I'm not saying negative about what happened, because I do not have electrical engineering or credential. I do not have plumbing. I do not have concrete. I just have done these by doing them as a homeowner. But the one thing I have is 60 years of woodworking. And I know what good woodworking looks like, and I know what scabbing stuff on looks like. Okay? All right. You want me to go through the list? You got your pencil?
Not a pencil, but...
Okay. The first thing that I noticed is when I went there, we opened up the restrooms first. And I agree with you, the restrooms are very, very nice, and the toilet partitions are very nice. And I used to do that when I worked my way through college, and they did a good job on those. The one thing that really stumped me was and I don't know what you call them, but I would call them the family rooms that are off to the front. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the ADA bathrooms put in by the Parks Grant, which those
Did you look at those?
I understand where you're coming from, Councilmember Stransky. So those ADA bathrooms, the majority of all the siding and the work in there was not part of our contract with DMR, because those were not damaged. So those didn't get new FRP, they didn't get new paneling and ceiling. Those were not touched by DMR except for the toilet fixture, grab bars, and the sinks.
But you did see the cobwebs and all the holes in the wall and these kinds of things in there.
I understand. So those were some of the items that we touched on, the city took on, the ADA, painting the ADA stalls, and because they weren't damaged, they weren't part of that scope of work that we approved for DMR.
Okay.
I mean, the limiting of what we could do for the repair versus going to the moon and painting everything and touching on everything, the contract to do that would have been extravagant, and we wouldn't have been.
All you have to do is just say that they weren't part of the project.
Yeah, the scope of it, same with like the margarita room.
That's good enough. Okay, that gets you guys off the hook. Okay, now I went to what was called the Margarita building or the concession stand. Are you aware of that one? Okay. When I walked up to that after going to the restrooms, the thing that blurted right out at me, and this was at 11 o'clock a.m. on Tuesday morning, was that the lights were on. So I thought maybe somebody had left the lights on. So I thought, no, if they wouldn't have done that, they would have a sensor out here and they had turned them on because we were within 2 feet of the door. But when I searched around for them, and it only took 15 to 20 minutes to look for it, it wasn't there. Okay? When we did open the door with a key, the lights were on. And when we closed the door at the end of the inspection, the lights were still on. And when I looked through the crack of the door, they were still on. So obviously, there's something wrong with electrical lights in there, in that building. Was that part of the agreement also?
They do have occupancy sensors on that, the Margarita room, I believe, so that when the door opens and moves, they will turn on. Yeah.
But that wasn't working. That's what I'm saying.
So they're staying on.
They were staying on.
Okay.
Okay, you got that down?
Yeah.
Okay, next one. We'll just stay with electric for a while. The next one was the circuit breaker box. And that evidently had been rewired. Is that correct?
A majority of it's been rewired. Some of the existing stayed, but yes,
Okay.
majority of it.
Okay, so the thing that amazed me was that the 8 circuit breakers that were in the small circuit breaker box seemed to be working really well. But the thing that amazed me was the 3 or 4 foot circuit breaker box that was up alongside it. And I don't know why it was there, because when I opened the box, there wasn't one thing in there other than the big breaker at the top of the box.
Correct. So the issue with that separate panel solves is the issue where we had with the gutter trough, where we had the main power coming into the building, and then in that box we had all these splices prior to the breaker box. And so what we did is supply that and correct it. And so the sub panel that is there is undersized, so it's not legal to be fed by the 200 amp panel we have, because it's a smaller 100 amp panel, so it actually can't take the load that was there. So that's why we have that separate sub panel that can allow that main to connect to that. That feeds the sub panel back to that other panel, which now makes it legal. And that gave us room to actually undo basically all the splices there in that gutter panel that didn't go, they were not under any, they had no breakers in between there, so there was solid connection, which basically all those lines, they feed off to the bathroom, they feed off the lights, those had no breaker in between them, so there's no way to disconnect it. And so that's what that panel does, it basically gave us room to separate that.
Okay.
So I understand, it seems an odd
It just looks strange.
thing that it has, we have a panel there with a main, but that's what it serves that function, is to allow us to clean up the stuff that was in that gutter trough and also keep it so the main, otherwise we had 200 amps feeding a 100 amp panel with no, and you would, if you had the load, you'd cry.
I just want you to know that it really looks strange to somebody that's not an electrician.
I understand. it
That's all I
doesn't
need
look,
to, I just need you to
ideal.
know that.
Its
Okay.
functionality is more than, and the issue is, right, we didn't take that building down to studs, we didn't were able to open up all the walls. If we did that, we would have been into a whole much larger cost. And so that's how we remedied that situation. There's multiple ways to do the work, and that serves the function. The elegant way would be to tear it all out and put in one brand new nice panel and do it all, but our change order price would have been.
But you did put the big box outside, and that was a plus.
Yes, and that was one of the main reasons why we upgraded that, was when that tree fell, there was no disconnecting means to that building. So the building was crushed, there's no way to get inside, there's no way to turn the electricity off. So.
Okay. I think the thing that just grabbed me more than anything else And when I came tonight, I was gonna vote no on this. But with the people that we have here, that would just floor it, but this will give you a little time to fix it up again. I had, and this is kind of a side thing, I had students for 35 years that were freshmen through high school, through the seniors. And I don't think I ever had a freshman that would put up the plywood the way that that was put up on the east wall. And the only thing I can say to you is they had a real good person scab stuff on there that you could stick your hand through there.
So the walls were not replaced. The existing walls are, we didn't take the walls off.
Those are Frontier Days walls.
On 2 days. So we didn't remove any paneling in there. I think the one paneling that was replaced, the city staff did on the west wall, that one is.
So none of that was replaced?
No, so all those walls, there might be one panel on the back wall where those junction boxes were, but the rest of it is all existing. So
okay.
we didn't replace all the wood paneling in there. That's them. That's what we started with.
I can't believe that as a city that paid how much money?
I understand.
That scabby wall out of plywood had to remain. And I'm not saying negative to you, I'm just saying if I showed that to, I'd have go back to wood shop and take my boys that I used to have down there and say, this is what you shouldn't do. And also, was the floor and the crud on the floor, was that replaced or anything like that?
None of the floor.
You didn't, so they didn't have to sweep it or anything?
They were supposed to clean up. I honestly don't remember the state of the floor in there when we walked through.
This buttoning up, yeah.
There was, whoever did the pine on the ceiling had a portable router that cut it to whatever size that they wanted to get into the slot they needed to get into. But they didn't have a broom. And that needs to be fixed, along with the paper and the crap that's all on the floor. Okay? Anyhow, these are things that I think as a city, if we're going to pay these people and pay this money and have those kind of things left, the city should have done them. Because that gives us a bad name in my estimation. Because everybody that comes in there that has crabbed about the way the city has treated Frontier Days is justified with that wall. And I'm just saying this, and I was amazed. I mean, I was really amazed that, and I did not know that it was not part of the tear down and build back up again.
Correct. The Margarita was pretty much walls up. It was just the ceiling rafters.
Well, I'm going to have to start looking at, when you bring out what they're going to do, I'm going to have to start reading them, because I obviously haven't read them.
Would we have had to have, as a council, have allocated more money if we would have completely remodeled the bathrooms?
Correct. You'd be looking at a much bigger price tag. So the bathrooms were remodeled. So the walls in the main bathroom, because those were
crushed.
So we would have had to take more money from the general fund.
Yeah, so if you wanted to rebuild the walls in there and the interior paneling, which wasn't damaged, the scope of the project was limited to the damage and upgrading those features, not cosmetic, they were already there. The features that need to be upgraded for code compliance. That's what the scope of the project was. It wasn't a complete beautification of all that. I mean, obviously you look at the outside of it, right? It's got mismatched siding, it's got there's a lot of problems with it. What was built by Frontier Days. So there's a lot of things you could do. I mean, we could gold plate the thing, but there's only so much money that we have to go around it to put in a budget. And you'd be looking at a much larger price tag if we wanted to redo the whole interior of that place.
No, you answered my question. From now on, I'll have to check what your bid, what you have out for bid, because I don't understand it. I would hate to vote even know what I did, that's what we have spent our money on. I mean, to a layman, it really looks bad. I mean, and I won't go any further on it because, obviously, would you look at it one of these days and say, gee, it's going to need 10 more pieces, and come to the city and say, we need 10 more pieces for the west wall so it would look a little better, and I'll be the first one to stand up from the podium up here saying, we really need that.
In order to do that, Davey, would you have to get Frontier Days to initiate that and make that request?
I believe the city can make that own request.
Okay.
The issue, I guess the only point I want to make is that, that what's existing there, we did not go through to remodel the interior of their space. There was a repair of the roof and fix the electrical and the other issues we found. So I understand there's cosmetic issues. I'm not sure if you went in there before the tree damage to know what it looked like prior, but I think that might be helpful in your...
Do we have any pictures from before?
I do not.
Okay, that's okay.
But, the exterior of that building, we fixed the back wall. That was all peeling off and wasn't painted, and it was warped. And, there's 4 mismatched walls on that. So, you look at the outside of it, which, the walls that we did not do anything to, and that's the quality that we had to start with. So I don't believe that.
This damage was caused by a city tree that fell upon a leased...
I know all the
leased
history of it.
building. Right. And so the city's legal obligation was to repair the damage caused by the city's tree. And it wasn't to totally improve the facility, it was to pay for the damage that was caused. And I think that's what Davey's saying was accomplished.
Any other questions?
No, I'm done.
Greta, do you have any questions? No? Anybody from the public?
I believe a lot of the damage and stuff, and some of the things that are cosmetic, and I think Jim can attest to this, in the lease agreement that we have with Frontier Days, they're responsible a lot for general maintenance and upkeep on the building. A lot of those things that you're pointing out were things that they put in and built. It's not something the city maintains. They are actually responsible for those things.
Question.
Yes.
I asked Davey, and this is side thing, you guys were having a meeting in here on Tuesday when I came by. And I asked Davey, they want to trim a tree in that area. And this side has nothing to do with anything else. And I told them that I didn't think that they ought to touch anything until they know what they're doing. And so when I talked to Davey, he said that I was correct, that they shouldn't do anything because they're all city trees. Okay, one question, and this is maybe for the legal department. If somebody has planted a tree in there for a real reason of a memorial for somebody's son or somebody's family member, is that still the city's tree, or is that the people that planted it, or who's responsible for that?
I would believe if it's on city property, I don't know if that's...
If you're talking about a private person planting a tree in the city park...
No, it's in the rodeo grounds. Not rodeo grounds, but in the where they have behind the, where you walk into it.
Right. the city owns both the park and the rodeo grounds, and so if a tree was planted there, it's a tree that's growing on city land,
Okay,
and
that's
if
all I
it
need
falls
to know.
and causes damage, it's the city's liability.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you very much.
Just to clarify my conversation with you, Larry, when you asked me about that tree, you know, the scope of what they're doing to trim a tree, you know, it could be variable, and that's why I said you need to basically ask Kenan or someone that knows what can understand what they want to trim, because, you know, trimming a tree could be, you know, cutting off half a branch, cutting off an end of it. They're city trees, it's city property, so if you're gonna modify that, it's best to ask permission, and that was the point.
That's exactly what you told me, and that's exactly what I told them. Okay.
Thank you.
It's just, we really need to have a sit-down, talk meeting with the people that are in charge of that facility and have it so everybody knows in the room, and Mr. Gonzalez and I are the lay people from the city that's on it, and so that everybody knows what this person can do and what this person can't do and whatever. One last question. If somebody gets hurt in that area by something that was done 20 years ago, electricity or whatever, is the city responsible for that?
Can you clarify your hypothetical?
Okay, my hypothetical question is, if I'm going through the turnstile to pay for going into the rodeo, and there's a wire out there, and it touches me, and it sparks me, and it does damage to my body.
Okay. The tenant there has a long-term lease, 50-year lease, and they have obligations to have insurance for all their operations. And so if someone goes onto the leased premises and they're injured because of some dangerous condition like a faulty wire like you're describing, that's a situation where I would imagine that the insurance of the tenant would be obligated to pay for those damages.
Okay, thank you, because I think really that to get everything back in order again, and I'm sorry to keep building this up, that we really need to meet with them, with all of the people that are in the Frontier Days that do the work, and the people that are like Davey and Brian and Gonzalez and myself, and really lay it out to what they can do and what they can't do. Because that's where the thing has come by. All I hear from the community is that the city never communicates with us for anything. And it's not just one person. I mean, the whole valley that's their thing. And they can't vote for us, but they can sure make a lot of stuff out in out in the city. Anyhow.
So, Madam Mayor, we have all intents and purposes of scheduling the ad hoc committee for the Willits Frontier Days. Once Councilmember Gonzalez returns, Mr. Lance here has been instructed, he's working on a proposed agenda, he's coordinating with their attorney, Chris Neary. Our expectation is to have that meeting sooner than later. One of the things we wanted to do was complete the project and do basically a handoff, walkthrough. They may have outstanding punch list items. We'll address that, but there's a working agenda for the forthcoming meeting. And our intent is to hold regular meetings, at least leading up to the event. So all the items that you have described about coordination, communication, expectations can be addressed then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, audience, for listening.
I believe
to
you
me.
were waiting to speak.
Oh, I was just going to ask when Larry...
Can you step
I
up?
beg your pardon.
You just got to step up to the podium.
Oh, I'm sorry. the room is so empty. All right, thank you. When Larry mentioned the breaker box, I've owned a couple commercial buildings and rented or leased them, and I kept a file on each and everything, and I took pictures. And the woman that I leased the building, one building to, said that she was getting a new location, which was fine. And and we were friendly, we were talking, my first grandson was born. So anyway, she said, well, I had asked her, to put the room back the way it was when she went in. And so she kind of laughed and she said, well, gee, Grandma, you're being very easy and being very nice about all this. My husband told me not to bother to paint your building, and she had put a lot of pictures, she sold furnishing, and she put a lot of pictures and holes in the wall.
Can you tie this back to the Frontier Days breaker box?
Oh, I'm sorry, but anyway, liability. So I'm always very cautious with that, and so just a simple contract, but I took pictures. And so when Larry asked that, this is my first conversation with Larry about the Frontier Days. I just thought if that breaker box, or if there's something there, then I would be very cautious, but the pictures work for me and a file on each case. That's all I was thinking, liability, the insurance companies.
All right, would anybody like to make a motion on this item?
I move to adopt a resolution accepting construction of the Rodeo Grounds bathroom and concession stand repair project and authorize the filing of notice of completion.
Thank you.
You're going to have to second it.
I will second the motion. All right.
Councilmember Connie?
Yes.
Stransky?
No.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes, and with a token of deep appreciation, I know that this was a lot of work, and I do know that you folks in the planning department, code enforcement, you've spent many, many hours out there trying to make sure that this facility is safe, and I know that it's been a struggle and contentious, but at the end of the day, we want a safe structure. Maybe it's not aesthetically pretty, but it's safe. Thank you. Our next item is to adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the professional services agreement with GHD for environmental engineering project and construction management services just to support the city railway trail project for an additional $182,683 using state coastal conservancy grant funds. And before you speak, I just want to confer, because of the last time we talked, Rails to Trails is my neighbor, or will be. Is this a conflict for me? It's within 500 feet.
Well, here's the situation. A public improvement project within 500 feet of real property you own or a business entity that you own, there is a presumption that it creates a material conflict of interest unless you have clear and convincing evidence to show that it does not, or unless you can demonstrate that the effects on your property are insignificant, they're nominal, they're immaterial. And so if the actual, I don't know how this improvement relates exactly to your property, the proximity exactly to your property, but if this is, we're talking about a trail that's not fronting your property, but is somewhat away from your property, it would seem to me that it would have a rather insignificant effect on your property. So, not having.
Yeah.
I mean, are there actual physical improvements of this project in close proximity to your property that create the financial effect?
No more than the park did.
What's the distance between the trail and your?
200 feet.
So there aren't any actual improvements right in front of your property, are there? So,
No, it's across the street. The trail begins across the street.
I don't know what the particular improvements of the project are that are within 500 feet of your project, of your property or your business. If they are insubstantial and nominal, then the presumption of materiality is rebutted. So that's the bottom line issue, is are there significant improvements that would affect your property? And I'm not aware of any that there are. I was going to, maybe this is a good time to suggest this, since this falls on the heels of the last issue, and that we had a couple of weeks ago, late February. And I really think that it would be beneficial to request a formal advice letter from the FPPC. And you can, and I can assist you with that process if you wish. And usually these letters come from the city attorney or the county council on behalf of a government official who is concerned about a possible conflict. And what we would do in a request, we would lay out all the facts and of this project and the proximity to your property, and we would request an opinion from the FPPC as to whether or not you have a conflict of interest, or whether you have overcome the presumption because of the nominal effect of these improvements on your property. And so,
Because this has a dollar amount attached to it, is it appropriate for me to vote on this matter tonight? And the dilemma is, if I step out, we no longer have a quorum. So I'm just trying to be clear.
this is a matter that needs to be taken care of this evening, probably.
It would certainly be timely to get this contract approved. This would put us on a track to complete the work by the end of the year, so.
Well, one exception under the Political Reform Act is participation sometimes is required. And here we're in that exact situation where we only have 3 council members. And so we're in a situation that even though there may be a presumption of a conflict, your vote is necessary. Your leaving the room would leave us without a quorum, and so your participation is actually required this evening.
Okay. All right, then we'll move forward with the item, and I'll let you introduce it.
Yeah, thank you for the caution there, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Dusty Dooley, your Community Development Director. Willits Railway Trail, Part 432. So GHD has been the consultant company that has been assisting us with developing the designs for the railway trail project. They also led us through the environmental review, where we adopted a mitigated negative declaration for the project. As council may recall, this is just a quick vicinity map showing the trail location, which will be in the railroad right-of-way between East Commercial Street and East Hill Road, about 1.6 miles. Unfortunately, there was not an opportunity to construct the trail and not cause impacts to existing wetlands, riparian vegetation, as well as some oak woodland habitat. So based on the biological report, the environmental document, the city understood that we were going to be in a position to develop mitigation lands to replace the resources, the protected resources that could not be avoided when constructing the trail. And so what we're here tonight to do is request approval of a resolution authorizing us to an amendment to our contract with GHD to complete the design work for the mitigation related to the trail and get those bid documents out for construction. Also in this vicinity map photo, you can see the 2 mitigation lands in relation to the trail. And so that includes an area to the northeast of the existing skate park. There's some existing wetlands there. And then also we identified an area, these are city-owned properties, as well as an area along the existing Hale Creek Trail here. And I'll focus in on those properties in just a second. Sometimes when you think of wetlands, you think of kind of those pristine areas, sort of marshy with a bunch of waterfowl and everything. Here's some examples of the wetlands that we're impacting as part of the trail. You know, in our initial assessment, it wasn't obvious that they were wetlands, but when they did the biological assessment, it turns out that there are some by definition wetland conditions that exist out in the railroad right-of-way. A lot of them were created by just sort of different drainage ditches and drainage patterns that were altered when they assumably, you know, constructed the railroad. I do also want to note that we purposely located at times the trail on one side of the tracks or the other to limit the impact that we would have on wetlands. So for instance, the trail will cross over to the west side of the tracks at Shell Lane. And again, that area that where we sort of get out of the urban environment, that's typically where we're seeing impacts to the protected resources. But by promoting and having that trail crossing, it reduced the total overall impacts and the amount of mitigation work that was required. So again, when you're working around these sensitive resources, you know, ideally it's avoidance, and then where you can't avoid it, it's limitations. So this is the area over by the skate park. You have the dark purplish color identify existing wetland conditions over there. And then you have some areas showing the approximate locations where we would establish new wetland conditions. The wetlands we're establishing should be of higher quality than the ones we're impacting. And then also, per our state permits, it's not a one-to-one ratio. It varies, but we're having to establish and create additional wetlands beyond those that we're impacting. I should also note that we will maintain the existing access road that Public Services uses to get through there to otherwise maintain that property. We're also aware that there's been discussions about this area potentially hosting like a disc golf course. It may be that we want to establish like a trail or some interpretive signage in the area to showcase the wetlands. All those things, although not envisioned as part of this effort we're doing, we're authorizing or seeking authorization for tonight, you know, what we're doing wouldn't interfere with those future uses or ideas. So I wanted to clarify that as well. This photo is showing the other additional offsite mitigation areas along the southern terminus of the Hale Creek Trail. You have the Hale Creek subdivision to your right and the photo, or to the east of the area. And this is the area that we're going to be planting some additional trees and expanding on the oak woodland habitat in that area. So just a quick summary, we're looking to reestablish just under an acre of wetlands to offset the just under 1/2 acre of wetlands that will be impacted by the project. We'll create just about a 1/2 acre of riparian vegetation to offset the 0.12 acres impacted by the project, and then finally create just over a 1/2 acre of valley oak woodland habitat to offset impact to existing oak woodlands. And then beyond that, we're also planning to plant an additional 44 trees to offset removal of 11 protected mature trees that couldn't be avoided. Again, you're trying to locate the trail as best you can. You're limited to the railroad right away, so it just wasn't feasible in some cases to avoid tree removal, even though we tried. So again, what we're looking for is an approval of a resolution authorizing us to enter in a professional service agreement in the amount of $182,683. And so that's sort of the bad news. The good news is we're able to take advantage of the $3.8 million grant we got from the State Coastal Conservancy to support the contract if council wants to approve this tonight. And so I think, Councilmember Stransky, you're probably going to be in here tomorrow for your business license to start a contracting company with all your old wood shop students, and I'm thinking about starting a company and doing mitigation work. But that's what I had to present to council, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions?
No questions. A thorough presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I read this, believe it or not, that we have to hire somebody from where? In this Ukiah area, Santa Rosa area, to come up and check it, to make sure that it doesn't encroach on sacred land? To try to clean it up a little bit?
So as part of the proposal, as you read it, we are required to do a cultural resources survey. And the archaeologist that lines up, I think, is going to be out of the Sonoma County area. I'm not positive about that, though, so.
And that's just because it's by a creek, or, I mean, it just seems strange to me that we own the land, that we just can't go in there and dig it out and ship it to the other place. But I understand what happens with all this other stuff. And I just thought it was interesting to read.
Yeah, just a little bit of clarification there. Our own general plan does direct us to do cultural resource surveys on areas around creeks, because those are known to be sensitive areas where there's a more likely chance of finding resources. But in this case, beyond that, it was we're working with state agencies, and they have to ultimately approve the planning and designs that we come up with, and that's something that they're going to want to see that we went through before they're going to authorize that proponent to.
I just thought it was interesting.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I make the motion.
Do we get?
Perfect. Yeah, I'll do public comment.
What's the motion?
As stated,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, anybody from the public? No? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Councilmember Connie?
Yes.
Stransky?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes. All right, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Dusty, for the keeping with the rails and trails. One day, before I die, I hope I see this.
We'll make it happen, Larry. I'm ready for it to happen, too.
We got a 2-year.
Dolores, you wanted me to bring up the other screen, and I'm not.
I think it's disappeared. I think Chief hit something when he was up there and.
You can just leave it like that, that's fine.
That's okay.
All right, we're going to move on to department monthly reports. They're presented at the second meeting of each month, which is now. Kathy, do you have anything to add?
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Thank you. Community development?
Just one correction on the front there. There was a notation added to the report beyond just for the code enforcement and building permits issued. And the numbers that are reported first in bold, those are the numbers for January. And then on the side, I guess we're re-reporting the numbers from December. So just to provide that clarification. But other than that, happy to answer any questions or provide.
Do you mean February and January?
It's the February report, so we're reporting the January numbers, because obviously we don't have the full numbers for
February, January. Say in January.
Maybe I'm confused.
February and January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Sorry for the confusion.
So what you're looking at is, this is basically the report for February. What the attempt to do is just to show the trend of what happened the preceding month.
Gotcha. Thank you for breaking out.
Finance?
Nothing else to worry about.
All right, and Police Department?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Just a couple of really quick things.
Will you go to the microphone just so that our
I'm
people that
sorry.
are, that's okay. If you're not at a microphone, the folks on the, that watch it on YouTube and whatnot can't hear you.
I would just like to update the council on some personnel. Dispatcher Castillo, who is here tonight, and we see the award. He just successfully completed his probationary period, and he's full-time dispatcher, and we're excited about that. We have one officer still going through the College of the Redwoods Police Academy. His name is Alex Garza, and he's doing really well. I talked with him the other day. We're excited. He'll be done and graduated in May, and then so he'll add another officer. We've hired another officer. His name is Donovan Shively, and he'll start Monday, and he'll start the police academy the week after, and so he'll go to the police academy April through August, and then he'll join the department through the training program. Excited about that. And Chris Dendy, our community service officer, he's completed his training program, and this is his first week working on his own. He made he transported a prisoner from Willits down to Ukiah yesterday, his first one, and we're excited about that. That leaves our officers in town and not driving on the freeway, and so we're excited about that. I did a little recruiting at the job fair this last week at Mendocino College Job Fair they had just down the street here, and that went really well. Excited about that. And we have some other recruitment opportunities coming up. So we continue to press forward. A big priority is to find more staffing for the department, and we're excited about that. We have a couple more applicants, a dispatcher and another police officer applicant in the background process, and we hope to tell you more about that in the coming month or so. So things are moving forward with staffing.
I do have a question for you, and you may not know the answer since you're relatively new here, but I was just curious, the discrepancy between the number of calls, cases, arrests, the incidents of this February compared to the previous year. It's pretty drastic drop in a lot of those cases, and I just wonder, has your team given you any indication of why we're seeing such a drop in numbers?
Just based on my experience, I'd say that two factors are probably involved. Last February might have been warm and sunny, and this February was rainy, and so that might be part of it. And part of it's going to be due to staffing, really. Right now we just have 5 sworn officers, and a great deal of the time it's just one out by themselves. They limit their activity. They don't want to get involved in some self-initiated activity and then not be able to respond to a call for service. And so, they're careful about what they do get involved in and what activity happens. Yeah, so I'm sure those are probably the 2 biggest factors that you see the number decrease.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Services and facilities?
Hello, Madam Mayor and City Council.
And utilities.
Hello. I'd like to just give an update. Most of the stuff is pretty current on there. I did want to follow up on an update. Councilman Stransky pointed out some things that 3 meetings ago we had actually touched on, and you left early. We gave some reports, and I'd like to give those updates again so you know what's going on with them. And Davey Bowles was involved in one of those with the Van Hotel that you brought up and everything, so I'd like to give a current update. One of the projects that has been brought up multiple times, and you referred to some of these projects that have lingered for quite a while, West Mendocino, the parking lot and the sidewalk there, and the trees that have uplifted it and the danger it's had. We've been working diligently with the owner there. On Monday, a contractor's been retained. The trees that are causing the damage are being removed, and new sidewalk is being put in, and a new ADA ramp. So 150 feet of sidewalk that's been a problem for multiple years by next week, they'll start that project and revamp that whole street side there. And that'll be brought up to current safety standards and ADA compliance, and tie into the existing new sidewalk that was part of the street project that was done years ago and stuff, and tie that whole area in. As for Wood Street, the parking lot there, we've retained, we have a relationship with PG&E as one of our partners. They are looking with their engineering department on what they can do to help us out with the current lighting and electrical that's there and seeing what we can do to add lighting to Wood Street parking. We're also looking at solar options if that isn't available. They're looking at using the 2 existing lights along the street there and adding some more lighting to the inside to see if they can help us out. And then as to the Van Hotel, I don't know, Davey, do you want to give an update? I know you gave an extensive one, just so we know what's going on. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes within services and facilities and community development that we don't always bring them to your attention until we're ready. And there's a lot of people working diligently to get these projects. Under Brian Bender, there's been a lot of projects that over the years we're all concerned about bringing into fruition and getting them completed. And that's been, I think, this team's really overriding goal this year, to come up with some ideas, and a lot of it's hampered by funding, lack of staffing, which we're trying to alleviate. And I think this year there's going to be a lot of changes. We're dealing with some projects that, I have one that goes back 40 years and several councils, and a use permit that has been lapsing, and we're holding them accountable now. So we're trying to go ahead and move ahead on all these past projects and clean them up and move forward. The staff has been working very hard on that. And Davey, would you give an update on Van?
Can I ask you a quick question first before we get into the Van Hotel?
Yeah.
Getting back to the Rexall property?
Yes.
Who's paying for the tree removal and the sidewalk?
The owner.
Okay.
The owner.
So
The
that's
city,
not coming out of
the
city's
city is
general
not paying anything for it. It is all currently the owner's responsibility. We have nothing to, we're just doing oversight on it. They are responsible for all the curb, gutter, sidewalk, trees.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Thanks for the tee-up, Walter. Yeah, just a quick update on the van. So February 21st, we were issued a warrant by the Superior Court of Mendocino County. We did serve that warrant on the building on the 21st at 9 o'clock. We did go in there and do extensive documentation of the existing conditions. Friday, we did file notice of substandard building and notice in order to abate the building. We gave them 60 days to make those corrections, and that was filed with the Mendocino County Recorder's Office Monday as well. So we are making progress, hopefully.
Did I hear you say that you took more than 2,000 photos of
1,200.
safety violations? 1,200 photos of safety and code
Health
violations?
and safety violations, yeah, not all of the pictures have violations in them, but there's plenty.
Just for correction, and if I understand correctly what you told me subsequently, there would have been more pictures, but the batteries died in your...
My phone did, yeah, it was 100% charged when I started, so. But we have plenty of documentation, so.
All right.
And that was an effort team with the fire district as well?
Correct. Fire department and the building department, code enforcement went through.
Thank you. I know you've been busy.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
You, in your report, indicated that the steps for the stop signs have been set at Pine and Maple, but we know that that's actually been completed.
It's been completed, yes.
Was there any timeline for the installation of stop signs at North and Laurel? Because that was approved at the same time as the Pine and Maple Street stop signs.
Those are ongoing. Yeah, we'll get those next and everything. Yes, probably the next couple weeks. A lot of it's been weather related right now.
My neighbors are asking, so.
Yeah, no. And we've had a lot of positive feedback besides from you, from people in the community, and an observation, it has not caused any problems and stuff. People seem to be taking to it really well.
The neighbors who live on that corner are over the moon and have stopped me multiple times to say how much they appreciate.
That's great, that it is working then. Good, good.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody from the public want to address us on that item? All right. I'm going to move to City Council announcements, communications, and reports, and start with Councilmember Connie.
I have nothing to report.
All right. Stransky?
I would like to thank the council and all of the other staff that has helped me to just sit down in Kathy's place, and I needed it because I just had replacement of my knee and I just could not do the stairs and stand without elevating my knee. And I've elevated it today because it's not quite as bad, but it's still there, and I guess I'm just a sissy bitch. That's the wrong thing to say. Excuse me, ladies. I'm sorry for saying that publicly, and the etiquette just gets me. Anyhow, thank you very much for putting up with me. Thank you very much.
We ladies are tough, we can handle it.
No, it's wrong. It's wrong in my part for saying it.
The only thing I have to report is I had a very long MTA meeting, but nothing of significance. We talked about budget, and we had an evaluation of our executive director, which was favorable, so nothing more to report. Do we have any good in welfare? We're hoping for sunshine on Easter, maybe? Okay, we'll take it. All right, and with that, we will convene to close session for conference with legal counsel for existing litigation in the matter of Craig Anthony Gilbert versus City of. We reconvened at 9:07, nothing to report out, and we are now adjourned at 9:08.